What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like Nintendo is at it again. They may be trying to announce a direct just a few hours after Newswave goes live, but thanks to the power of the internet and rumors going all over the place, we might be able to pull the reverse Uno card on them here for their presentation, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a very strange leak that's hit Sony and Insomniac, showing gameplay for a title that it's probably like half a decade away. And then we'll also be talking about Black Myth Wukong. It was at Summer Game Fest, and people are really looking forward to its release here in a few months. And we got some previews that gave us some new details, even some maybe surprising ones as to exactly what kind of game this is. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with Lollipop Chainsaw RePop, which is a remake of the action beat-em-up game from 2012, if I remember correctly. Well, we do have that actually coming up here pretty soon, as we got a release date with the new trailer, which you can see some of it here, as well as some additional information based on which platform you pick it up on. Now, in terms of its release date, it is coming out September 25th, and it is also coming out on the Switch. So that was a nice surprise there. People weren't really sure as to if it was coming to Nintendo's platform. It is, along with the PS5, Xbox Series, and Steam. For resolution and frame rate on the PS5, Xbox Series, and Steam, of course, on PC, 4K 60 FPS is the target. On the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, 1080p 30 FPS. Now, they do have a RePop mode. It's a distinct and colorful pop art style for damaging effects, shorter load times. There's auto QuickTime event options, various gameplay improvements, and a new streamer mode, which I assume just kind of changes out any kind of licensed music they have there for just more of a stock music so that you don't get copyright strikes or something like that. So really, really fun stuff here. And yeah, I'll be picking this one up when it releases in September. This is one of the few games that it still kind of has a cult following, but is not backwards compatible. Again, I'm sure for licensing reasons, that sort of thing. So looking forward to this one when it releases, actually, again, in just a few months. It is nice to see these games get these reveals and these release dates where it's just a few months out. Again, starting to get used to that a bit with some of these recent presentations. Also, we did have some trophies go live for a game that people thought was going to be announced at Ubisoft Forward, but it was just absent. And while Beyond Good and Evil 2 has basically become meme status now, well, the 20th anniversary for Beyond Good and Evil, that was something that leaked out pretty early, got pulled back, and now it seems like it's ready to come out again. We can see this is posted up over on Insider Gaming, where they say the Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition trophies for the PlayStation 5 have appeared online. This sparking discussion of the game could be released soon. Now, the trophies appeared on Exophase, and they use PlayStation's backend to update its readers on future title releases and trophies. Now, Ubisoft Forward, again, this game wasn't there, but with the trophies seemingly going live and Exophase pulling them, kind of seems that it's just about ready to come out, or at least be announced with a pre-order page, that sort of thing. So we think there's a Nintendo Direct coming up. This would most likely also be on the Switch, so maybe that is where it reemerges and they get the full announcement with the release date. What would be really cool is if they did some sort of shadow drop or something like, oh, it's out in a month, maybe. Again, I'm starting to get used to those quick turnarounds, announcement and then release a month, maybe even the same day. We'll see. Oh, and it looks like Masahiro Sakurai is wrapped up on his YouTube channel, which is leading to all kinds of speculation, but we can see this posted up over on his official Twitter/X account, where he says, "We have finished recording the final episode of the channel. I think it will be a while before it is released, so please enjoy the regular episodes. Until then, 3 dots. Okay, well, Sakurai has talked about him basically ending production with his YouTube channel because he's working on some other project, just development there, and naturally we all assume he's going to a new Smash Brothers game, and that's what he's been working on because the franchise most likely is going to have to be rebooted in some way, and well, you're going to probably tap Sakurai for a reboot of the franchise. Who knows? Maybe he has a vision he's thought about, maybe even pitched before, and they were saving it for a time like this when there's really not much else you can do other than reboot it. Since you've done Smash Bros. Ultimate, where else do you go unless you can bring all those characters, likenesses, license along with you, and that's probably not feasible going forward with how many companies were involved. But I guess we'll hang out and see the next time Sakurai pops up in a Nintendo Direct. Will it be for a Kid Icarus Uprising HD remaster, or will it be for a brand new Smash Brothers? And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a Nintendo Direct that most likely Nintendo themselves have announced an hour or two after this video goes live. And in fact, it's probably something that's going to be happening in the next 24 hours or so. And this started to break over the weekend as rumors were circulating around about when this event could be happening. And we even saw Midori, apparently some of their last leaks had to do with this Direct. But we have some better sourcing around this, and it started to trickle out over on the gaming rumor and leaks page over on Reddit, which we can see they then cited Famaboards, saying that Brazil on Famaboard says Nintendo Direct is Tuesday morning, June 18th, and we can see it here. They just say it's Tuesday in the morning. Okay, so it's Monday now, which, unless Nintendo's shadow dropping this thing, like just the event, it's a Direct Mini or something, I guess they could. They've done that before. It's just... here it is. I'm thinking we're going to see this thing announced in the next couple of hours. And the way we're going to do this is, I'm just going to assume the Direct, we'll just say, Nintendo Direct, 30 to 40 minute presentation, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific. Give the West Coast, give them at least an extra hour. Don't make them wake up at 5:30 in the morning to get ready to stream and stuff. Give them a little bit of time. I'm going to say 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's mostly going to focus on games happening this year, right? To close out 2024, because let's face it, we'll probably get to the end of the year and we'll know about Nintendo's next system as we head into 2025, when they'll be inevitably launching the thing. And probably to manage expectations, they'll respond to this Direct tweet with something that's like, oh, we're not going to be mentioning or talking about or giving any new information on the next generation device that President Furukawa had mentioned a month or so ago to investors. Okay, so with that in place then, if it is the 18th, the morning of the 18th, as we're assuming here, I can change the title to Nintendo Direct announced after it's been announced, and all this will still be correct and up to date. So we'll see how that one worked out there. But the elephant in the room here is going to be Metroid Prime 4. We're expecting remasters, remakes of some kinds, maybe some other ports from the Wii U generation, like Xenoblade Chronicles X. That's always up in the air, always possible. Maybe they have a Mario baseball game to close out the entirety of what their sports franchises tend to be each generation. Metroid Prime 4 is the one I'm looking for. I know Zelda, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, great. But will Metroid Prime 4 make it this holiday, or is it something that maybe ends up in next year and turns into their Breath of the Wild game that they had for the Wii U, where that was originally revealed for that system, and then it just took so long, it ended up as a Switch game as well and was that cross-gen title. I think as long as Metroid Prime 4 releases on the Switch, there really won't be much issue at all, even if it does end up coming out maybe as a launch title for Nintendo's next system. If there is a Switch version, I think they'll be fine. So that's sort of what I'm looking for currently. Otherwise, third parties should be involved, obviously. Maybe that Beyond Good and Evil game is there, and then it's anyone's guess from that point when it comes to maybe some indie titles like, hey, maybe Silksong could be there. We've been waiting for a while to see that one, but that's where I am right now. We'll say June 18th, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 30 to 40 minutes, nothing about their next generation device. Next up, let's talk about a very strange leak that has hit Sony and Insomniac. It has to do with that Spider-Man franchise. We have Spider-Man 2018, we have Spider-Man 2, and we have Spider-Man Miles Morales. And now it looks like, I'm not kidding, Spider-Man 3 has leaked online with gameplay. Now, we know that there was that massive leak from Insomniac that was all ransomware, and then it was just kind of just thrown online. People have been going through it. They found a lot of stuff with Wolverine. They continue to find more and more stuff. They've made it fully playable even on PC. The build that they have, clearly it's not the final build, nothing like that, so I wouldn't really judge any of the visuals, animation, really any of it as a final product. And I think that should be obvious to most people, but I still see some weird takes on social media from time to time around that. However, Spider-Man 3 footage is circulating, and it's something that you can't show either way. One, Sony's going to come around and start striking stuff down, but two, there's just a massive spoiler immediately when you look at it. Like, the character you're playing as is part of Spider-Man 2, but it's supposed to be a big reveal towards the end, and they're like, oh yeah, here you go, Spider-Man 3 gameplay footage. Like, well, okay, that would have been a nice surprise to find out on my own. But the part of this that it's just so weird, this is a game that I don't think we're going to see until, it might be 2020. It might be one of the last games we have like fully come out from one of Sony's major first-party studios in this generation. Think about it, Insomniac still has to do this Venom spin-off game that apparently is going to be a similar size as Miles Morales. They're going to do Wolverine, that is seemingly more and more likely to end up in 2026, and then they'll be releasing Spider-Man 3, which at one point in time was even thought of as, hey, what if we did this as a 2-part game? Doesn't necessarily mean it's off the table, but I do kind of think they've moved away from that, and that was more of just a pitch or an idea as to how they can essentially raise game prices without just putting an $80 price tag on the box. But certainly a very unique situation here, and that Insomniac leak just keeps on going. I mean, it is like a thorn in Sony's side. You feel like they found everything, and then, oh wait, there's gameplay for a title that is coming up probably at the end of the generation, you know, like 4 some odd years from now. It's just wild stuff. Next up, let's talk about Elden Ring, as the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC is out actually at the end of this week, and very exciting stuff there for Elden Ring fans, and I am very much looking forward to getting back into the game, checking out the DLC, and then probably dying another 100+ times. But there were many interviews going around with Miyazaki, and one in particular was interesting because it brought up an aspect of the game that you would look at as a weaker aspect, which is hard to find for Elden Ring, as good as that game is. But when it comes to the online and co-op side of things, it does feel like FromSoft was kind of half in, half out on it, and they didn't necessarily push it to be that big revolutionary thing for the franchise. Obviously, with Elden Ring, they were more focusing on the open world concept and making that fit into a Souls game. Well, there is a mod that does let people just do full-on co-op all the way through the game, and Miyazaki was asked about this, which is funny because whenever these mods come up for big companies, what happens? Well, they usually strike them down and destroy someone's life or something. We've seen that happen many, many times now, especially when you see Nintendo involved. But let's see what Miyazaki had to say here. This was actually the PC Gamer, where they say, it's definitely not something we actively oppose or want to downplay, wanting to go through the whole game together. In terms of where we were with Elden Ring, it was simply a case of wanting that more loose, casual style, drop in, defeat a boss, drop out. It doesn't put any technical restrictions on the players, it just sort of lets them complete this focus and then move on, so to speak. That's not to say we won't consider other ways, like you and your friend played, from beginning to end, total co-op. That's not to say we won't consider ideas like that with our future games. They're doing it all wrong. You're supposed to go in there and say, well, I will let my lawyers deal with that. He's just saying, hey, that's a cool idea, I guess. Maybe we could implement that in the next one. And that, you could look at that and say that might be the next big step for the Souls formula, the franchise. Elden Ring, clearly they figured out the open world concept very, very well. And I mean, this is a game that's absolutely exploded in terms of sales. Most recently reported over 25 million. That's ridiculous for a Souls game. Souls games did sell pretty well, all things considered, for it being a hard game. But this is more than double even the best-selling game before that. So maybe the next step is indeed bringing in more of a multiplayer aspect where you can do co-op, not just one, but maybe 2, 3, or 4 friends. And you go through the whole game and you're all fighting these massive bosses that are incredibly difficult, one-shotting people and you're reviving them. And I'm just kind of picturing this like incredibly epic battle all going on with people everywhere. So would that get a bit too frantic? Maybe, and that could be a concern they have there, as well as sort of the commitment aspect. And how does the world change and shift? How does the save data function across accounts? There are still a lot of question marks there, but that could be the next big aha moment for the Souls franchise. But I guess we'll see. Again, probably years from now, we're still waiting to get Shadow of the Erdtree later on this week. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Black Myth Wukong, as we did have some previews start to go live, actually last night. Before that, a few went live a bit early and then they got pulled back down, but now it seems the embargo has lifted and there is a bunch of new information coming out of these previews. And one part that surprised me a bit, because I'll admit I was looking at Black Myth Wukong sort of as a Souls-like experience. Not the case though, apparently. But we can see Pure Xbox, for example, did have a full preview and video, which I'll link down to below if you would like to see some more of the gameplay, but we'll show bits and pieces of it here. Starting at the top though, it is on Unreal Engine 5, so it looks very, very good. Of course, inspired by Journey to the West. Not a Souls game, might be a bit faster, action RPG style instead. It does feel easier than a standard punishing Souls game, so maybe a bit more approachable for people. Huge set pieces, very unique looking enemies and bosses that were shown in the video. There's no real blocking system. I mean, there kind of is, and it kind of not, it's really not the focus. The focus is on dodging, as your character is very quick and nimble, and you can kind of get around your enemies pretty easily through dodging and rolling. And there's this cool after image effect that happens. It did make me think a bit of Dragon Ball Z. I will say that with that after image where if you dodge just right, it looks like there's like a faint outline of you behind where you were originally. So that's kind of a cool effect there. You have your fast and heavy attacks, of course, and mixing all that together with these different stances that will alter your movesets in real time. And you will gain new spells and abilities by defeating different enemies, and you do level up. There's a full progression system there. The game is coming out August 20th, so we're not too far out, about 2 months now, and I am very much looking forward to this, but I will say it's different than I was expecting just based on some of the original gameplay that I saw in those trailers. Of course, in-engine mixed with gameplay, sometimes it is kind of hard to get a grasp on how the game is going to play, and then you hear previews like this, and it's like, oh, okay, it's just kind of an action RPG that isn't taking that Souls-like approach of you're gonna die 200 plus times before you beat this game, right? So that is a bit more intriguing, I think, to many people out there who kind of step away when they hear the Souls comparisons. So really cool stuff. And we'll be seeing more and more previews, I'm sure, pop up as we go through the week. This seemed to be something that was done at Summer Game Fest, and we're still just a few days removed from that. So you'll have people, of course, editing up preview articles and more videos. So we'll see what other people's takes are on this and how closely they related to some of these different Souls games. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, these are the highest rated new games, not remasters or expansions, so far in 2024 according to Metacritic. Which one would be your favorite for game of the year? I did ask people to leave a comment if there's like one that's not on here that you would consider your favorite for game of the year. But I looked through the comments and many people, like I saw Prince of Persia and Unicorn Overlord, which is great. But for the most part, people were like, yeah, I guess these would be the highest rated ones. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth did lead the way, 54%. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, though, at 15%. And look at this, Animal Well, 14%. Awesome game, by the way. I played through it, had a blast. A really cool, I'll say simplistic, but minimalistic. I'll say it minimalistic. Metroidvania style game. Definitely recommend it. Tekken 8, and then Balatro, which is a very unique take on the poker Texas Hold'em roguelike game. There are some very unique games out this year so far, I will say that. But I'm thinking the second half of this year is going to start tacking on many, many titles at the top of Metacritic, and that's kind of where I think we're going to have a lot of our focus this year, being more backloaded with releases around sort of that holiday fourth quarter time. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Joko, who says, Retro Studios is going crazy ham on that game right now. Nintendo probably sitting back in awe on how much money is being spent. Yeah, that's the only thing with Metroid Prime 4. While there are expectations from just fans in general because of how long it's taken, Nintendo has spent a lot of money on this game. This is not a cheap game. One, making a game in general isn't cheap, but two, making a game on this level and then rebooting it and then spending another 5 years on it after you announce that you rebooted it. Yeah, this is an expensive one. This is certainly a AAA game, we'll put it that way. So I'm hoping Metroid Prime 4 looks good. I'm hoping it does well in terms of sales. I hope it does well in terms of reviews. And Retro Studios shows up and reminds us all why they are that studio for Nintendo. Really the only studio at this point for them that can make Metroid Prime, that first-person, sure, Metroid, first-person action-adventure style game. I mean, Nintendo tried to make it apparently, and it didn't work, so they shipped it back to the US and said, Retro, you go ahead and take care of this one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's the Nintendo Direct that is probably already announced by the time you're seeing this video. What do you hope to see at the event? And then also, what about Spider-Man 3 gameplay just kind of getting out there? Did that surprise you when you saw it pop up online. And then what about Black Myth Wukong? What do you think about some of the previews now going live, and are you picking it up in August? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.